Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Tour Pro Talks. I'm Genevieve White, travel and tourism copywriter and coach, and I'm delighted to be joined today by my very special guest, Michelle Lyons. Hello, Michelle.
Thank you for having me today.
Oh, it's absolutely lovely to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining us. So, Michelle is a British inventor who's helping to revolutionize tourism in Japan with her creative ideas. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so before we go any further, I'd like to say welcome to our wonderful Tour Pro Talks audience. Do join us in the comments by saying hello, saying where you're watching or listening from today. And we like to kick things off with a question, just a simple question to get the conversation started. So, our question today is, how effectively do you think over tourism is being dealt with in your destination? So that's a little kick-off question to get us started and to get some conversation going in the comments as well. But as you know, we don't have too much time, so we're going to get started straight away with the conversation and with first question. But just a quick hello. There's Hang saying hello and greetings from Vietnam. She's in Vietnam today. Ah, yes, so you are. Hope you're having a great time, Hang. Okay, so let's just begin, Michelle. I'm really curious to hear a little bit about your background. How did you end up working in regenerative tourism for Japan? Can you tell me a little bit about how you got to do it into doing that?
Yeah, so I've always enjoyed making fun and purposeful things, and
Hmm.
the closest that I could get to that through the education system was graphic design. So I studied graphic design at university and started my company Point North in the final year, and I meandered around a lot with what that business would focus on. So initially, I was focused on invisible issues, so problems that don't get enough attention. Then I went to nature-inspired brands, and then into arts and culture. And around that time, I had a friend who used to go to Japan a lot, and they started to introduce me to the culture, which I became quite interested in. So eventually, I thought, why not focus on Japanese culture for my business, seeing as I'm interested in it. And eventually I settled on the tourism industry specifically because it brought together all the things that I'm interested in. So the Japanese culture, experience design, nature, and solving those invisible issues. It all just seemed to make sense within that industry.
Brilliant. That's such an interesting combination of interests there and how that all came together. What is it particularly about Japanese culture that interests you?
So I really appreciate the craftsmanship, the attention to detail and quality, and the connection to nature as well, and the stories that they build onto that, but also the very visually stimulating city streets and the kind of very fun experiences that they create. It's very inspiring from a design perspective. It's a very creative place, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And now your project focuses specifically on Japan's national park system. So can you maybe just talk us a little bit through that? First of all, what drew you to focus specifically on the national park system in Japan?
So the project was initially a proposal for a grant to develop your creative practice. So I wanted to do a project around national parks because that's an interest of mine, and because Japan was also an interest of mine, it made sense to bring those two things together. And while I was researching for this project, I discovered that the national parks were actually experiencing quite a few challenges in Japan due to there being the few very popular ones and then those that were lesser known. So eventually I decided to make the project more about helping the national parks redistribute the tourists.
Mhm. And there's one park, I think, in particular that is the one that tourists flock to, isn't it? Can you tell us which one that is? Because I know if I try and read it, I'll pronounce it wrongly.
I'm sure my pronunciation isn't perfect, but it's Fuji Hakone Izu.
Okay. And what is it about that park that makes everybody want to go there? Is it just kind of that this is the place you go, or is it just is it the size of the park, or what is it about it that makes that one so popular, or is it its location within Japan?
Yeah, it's partly its very central location, so it's really close to Tokyo. And obviously Mount Fuji is there, which is the star attraction of Japan. So people are often within that national park without actually realizing it.
Oh, right. Okay, I see. Okay, good. So we've got some more guests joining us. First of all, we've got Jamie Burr. Hello, Jamie. Sarah from Paris. Hi, Sarah. Lovely to see all these familiar faces. Martin from Turkey. And a little conversation going on about Vietnam there in the comments between Jamie and Hang. Okay, so if you're just watching, welcome. If you've just joined us, welcome to the session. We're talking today about Michelle's creative ideas and creative project for revolutionising tourism in Japan. So let's get back on to talking about the national parks in Japan. So there's the main one that everybody visits. And what are some of the main challenges facing the other parks in Japan, those less visited parks?
So one of the major challenges is rural depopulation. So because there's just not enough people visiting and spending money within the local communities, it becomes less and less viable for people to continue living there.
Mm,
Because Japan's national parks aren't just big empty expanses of nature, there's a lot of people living within them.
okay.
So there's lots of people moving out, but also that lack of money means it's kind of hard to establish those tourist infrastructures that need to be there as well.
Okay, yeah. Um, so tell us, I think now we've spoken a little bit about the parks and sort of the challenges facing the lesser known parks. Tell us now in a little bit of detail about the project that you came up with to kind of redistribute the visitors around the parks in Japan.
So the project is called Parks in Japan, and the approach is to create a portfolio of culturally relevant brands that will create fun product experiences that engage people with the national parks in different ways. And then 10% of the profits from those products will go towards helping the local communities and conservation activities. So the products, they're not only designed to build interest and awareness of the parks, it's also to move them around to different attractions within each one,
Mhm.
and also to perceive the 35 national parks as being a sort of collection of locations as opposed to isolated places.
Brilliant. And I mean, it's such an excellent idea. Where did you get the inspiration for this?
So this was really just what felt natural to me. So I realized that the biggest problem to solve was how do you engage people with them, with the national parks long term. And being a designer, I know how brands and brand experiences can engage people long term and enable that relationship to be built. So it just made sense to me that I should make something that's fun and appealing and that can be with people over a long period of time if I wanted to use that to support the parks.
Mm. It's a really inspiring idea, and I wonder if any of the audience who are watching can maybe think of something in your destinations that might work if you've got a similar kind of distribution problem. If there's any kind of similar kind of gamification products that would work in your destinations, do feel free to share any ideas in the comments. Here's a question from Jamie, who's really enjoyed reading about your work. So he's asking here a little bit about your process. So, I mean, obviously, you've maybe hinted a little bit at how you started, where you got the idea. But in terms of process, what did that look like?
So it was a very organic process developing the ideas for the products. So initially it was just something quite simple, which was creating the enamel pins for each national park to have that collectability to it. But I wanted to make use of the backing card that those would come from. So that then turned into the Field Quests product, which is the activity booklet with the enamel pin attached to it. And inside there is 12 treasures to find, such as food or monuments or some of the cultural aspect of the place. Then there's 3 side quests to complete, which encourages engagement with the local businesses, such as doing one of their activities. And you can collect points as you find each of those things to represent the growth of your adventurous spirit. So the process was really just what would feel fun to people, what would keep them engaged, what would make them want to repeat this experience in another place. So I had to make sure that the content for each field quest is unique. Otherwise, there wouldn't be much point doing another one in another park. So yeah, process-wise, I was just thinking, if I were doing this, would this feel fun? And would I want to keep doing it?
Mm-hmm. Do you envisage it as something that families would do together, or could it equally be enjoyed by solo travelers or people traveling with friends? I mean, um, what's your sense of your audience?
So it's quite flexible. It can be used solo, but you could also do it with friends. You could have one each, or you could go through it together. And it's simple enough that children could enjoy it, but it isn't childish in a way that would make adults not want to engage with it. So it just strikes that balance of um, kind of sparking that childlike joy without being tied to a specific age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really does sound like a lot of fun. Okay, right. Here's a question from Hang. So she asks, with over tourism increasing year on year in popular destinations, redistribution feels like an understandable response. But when do the costs of marketing-driven redistribution start to outweigh other interventions, such as dynamic or peak pricing, that could potentially achieve the same outcome more effectively? What are your thoughts on that, Michelle?
So I think with an approach like the one I'm taking, it doesn't use methods that penalize people for being there. There's no shame or guilt. And I think that even though things like the fees for being in a certain place, the sort of tourist tax, can be effective as a deterrent, there's also the longer term effect of how that makes people feel like they're being punished for wanting to see the place.
Yeah.
So I think all of these methods need to be used simultaneously in balance, to both drive people to lesser known areas but not overwhelm places that already have plenty of people.
Yeah, and I think that's a really nice point that you've made. It's doing it in a positive way that doesn't make tourists feel guilty for wanting to explore places. Yeah, that is so important, isn't it? Okay. So let me have a think about you've said somewhere, I've read in your writing, can't remember if it was on your website or somewhere on your LinkedIn, you said that you speak a lot about brand, and you said that brands outlast campaigns. I thought we could maybe kind of unpick that statement. What do you mean by that, and why is it important for destinations that are trying to shift visitor patterns?
So a campaign is short lived, which means people can't build a relationship with it, whereas a brand is just an ongoing entity and it can repeatedly engage with its audience over time, which means it can build that relationship with them without having to kind of reinvent the wheel every time it wants their attention. So
Mm,
if a destination creates a brand as a vehicle to engage people, it means they're building something that they can use long term, and they don't have to worry about, oh, how can we get them to care next? It's just
yeah.
there will be something that keeps them there and that builds and builds on that interest.
Yeah, so it is much more long-lasting solution than something that is just here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
I've had a message from pop up saying that the internet connection is maybe not too good, and here's Martin just saying that the internet is playing up. So I'm not sure if everyone is able to watch us, or if we're breaking up, or if we're clear and you can hear us. So if you could just pop a message to our audience, are you able to hear us, or is everything working on your end? That would be great. So, oh, here we go. Not sure why, but I keep hitting a glitch on this and it won't play past Michelle saying adventurous spirit. Anyone else? Okay. It seems as if we are having some technical problems today. I'm not quite sure what's going on, if it's maybe a LinkedIn issue. That's the message I got on StreamYard was maybe suggesting it was. So I'm not sure what to do. This is such a shame. If nobody's able to hear what we're talking about, maybe we'll just ask you a couple more questions, Michelle, anyway, because hopefully if there is some problem with the live streaming, then at least people will be able to watch the whole conversation on replay. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just continue. Okay. Okay, I think what I'd really like to speak about next is, I mean, this is such a unique idea, and I love to think about how other destinations might take a similar approach and use it, like say in, I don't know, Europe, or um, the United States, or anywhere around the world. I mean, I know your interest lies in Japan, but have you had any thoughts on how other destinations might do something similar?
Yeah, I think the collectability and the gamification are useful tools to use for engaging people as well as building some kind of brand. But I think the format with which you engage people should be culturally relevant to the country that it's in.
Mm.
So with what I've created, games and especially trading card games, which is one of the other products I'm developing, that's strongly associated with Japanese pop culture.
Mm.
So it sort of echoes that resonance between the format and the place it's being used for. So it wouldn't necessarily make sense to make a trading card game for the UK
Yeah.
because it would just feel a little bit disjointed. So you'd want to find what is that format that people kind of already associate with the place that
Mm.
you can then build on.
Yeah, I think it is having that really deep cultural understanding of a place, isn't it? To know that it's going to work well.
Mhm.
I mean, the whole gamification idea, I mean, I think that would work well in any place. It's just maybe thinking about the format and the medium that you would use for it to catch on. But yeah, there's so much scope for that there. I wanted to ask you actually, this is maybe going back to another question we spoke about earlier with the process, but in terms of the materials that people get, what language are they in? Are they in English or is it multilingual?
So initially, all of the products will be in English. As being English, I can only create them in that language
Yes,
first.
yes, of
So
course.
uh, the idea with Field Quests, which is the first product that we'll launch, is that will be targeted at international visitors, particularly in North America, UK, and Australia. So it will focus on bringing English-speaking visitors into Japan and positioning the product as something they would buy ahead of their trip so that they have it once they're there. But at a later date, I do want to have everything translated and localized for the Japanese market.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
an example of
Yeah.
how that might, sorry, go on.
No, sorry, I was just going to say, because I can imagine it would be a really fun experience for local
Mm,
families as well. If
mm.
they're holidaying at home, which many people do, it'd be a brilliant thing for them to have in their language as well. Hmm. Yeah.
Yes. So, for example, with the field quests, I think there's somewhere I've included a Torii gate as one of the things to find and that you'll learn something about. But it wouldn't necessarily make sense to include that in the Japanese version because it's part of their culture. They're very familiar with what it is. They don't really need to learn about it. So it's
Yeah.
just making those careful choices for each market.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and adapting to suit the needs of these like different audience segments, I suppose. Um, what about collaboration? That was something we spoke about in last time's Tour Pro Talks a couple of weeks ago. We were speaking about collaboration. I mean, are you who have you collaborated with on this project so far, and are there any future collaborations you're looking to explore with?
So up until now, it's been pretty much just a solo effort. So it's been really challenging in that sense because I'm doing every aspect of it from strategy to design to marketing. But I have had uh, insights from various people as I've shared the project online, which has been really helpful. And I've had someone interested in trialing it in one of the national parks. Um, but in terms of future collaborations, I'm thinking very big with those. So I would love to collaborate with one of the airlines in Japan to
Hmm.
create a a branded in-flight experience using the products to help promote the national parks as people are heading there.
Oh, I think that's a great idea. It really would kind of feed into the anticipation and to the planning stages of the trip as well, wouldn't it? Yeah. Oh, that sounds fantastic. That sounds really exciting. And I mean, yeah, what are your own ideas for, for future work? I mean, how might you develop this once this is up and running? How would you plan to develop the product or scale it?
I guess I would continue to be involved from the creative and strategic point of view, but I would definitely need other people involved for, I guess, distributing the product and obviously manufacturing the product. And one of the ideas for Field Quests was that I could create custom versions. So there could be ones created for local schools in Japan, or they can be designed as a unique adventure for corporate gifts. So there's lots of ways it could expand and develop, but I would look to build it in a way where I've kind of created a network of partners that all have their own specialism that they bring to the table, and so it's just a very flexible way of working.
Yeah. And in terms of obstacles in the process so far, or obstacles that you can maybe anticipate coming up in the future, I mean, what do you think the main obstacles are with potentially implementing this and continuing it?
So speed and resource are probably the biggest challenges at the moment. So as I say, working alone, it's taken a huge amount of time to develop everything, and I'll be launching a Kickstarter campaign for the products because it would just be too much to fund alone. And in the future, if I wanted to get those products actually stocked within the national parks, that would be another challenge to get those agreements with the local agencies in Japan. So there's potentially a lot of layers of bureaucracy to contend with in the future.
Yeah, well, I hope everything goes really well, and good luck with your fundraiser. When do you think you might be starting that?
I'm hoping to launch the first 10 field quests this summer.
Okay.
So if I can keep everything on track, it should be not too far away.
Well, that's very exciting. Do keep us posted, Michelle, and we look forward to hearing how it goes. It's just really exciting to hear about this really fresh idea, and to hear about how you've developed it in accordance with the national culture of Japan as well. So I wish you every success with that. And thank you very much for joining us on Tour Pro Talks today. If to our audience as well, apologies for the technical hitch that seems to have happened today. I'm not quite sure what the cause is. This is the first time I think we've ever experienced a sort of technical breakdown on Tour Pro Talks. I'm not quite sure what it is, but if you've missed it, don't worry. I will summarize the conversation for the newsletter next week, so you'll be able to read about anything you missed then. So thank you again, Michelle, for joining us. It's been a real pleasure talking with you. And thank you to our audience as well. Goodbye, everybody.